there is a terrifying possibility hidden beneath one of the oldest questions humanity has ever asked. What if dinosaurs didn't disappear because they were weak, but because reality itself changed? For over 160 million years, they ruled this planet. Longer than humans have existed. Longer than mountains have stood. Longer than the Atlantic Ocean has existed in its current form. They survived volcanic hellscapes, violent climate shifts, continents tearing themselves apart. Nothing could stop them, until one ordinary day, and then they were gone, not slowly, almost instantly, on the scale of Earth's history. But here's the part almost nobody thinks about. If something powerful enough to erase the most successful creatures ever to live could happen once, why couldn't it happen again? Because this isn't really a story about dinosaurs. It's a story about every civilization that believes it's permanent, including ours. Imagine waking up tomorrow, the sky is slightly brighter than usual. Birds are strangely quiet. The air feels warmer. Nothing seems wrong. You go to work. You answer emails. You complain about traffic, completely unaware that somewhere, millions of kilometers away, a rock larger than Mount Everest is already falling toward Earth. There is no alarm, no warning, no panic, just ordinary life. Because catastrophe rarely announces itself, it simply arrives. 66 million years ago, something like this happened. A massive asteroid slammed into what is now Mexico. The impact released more energy than billions of nuclear bombs. The ground melted. Entire forests ignited. Shockwaves circled the planet. Tsunamis taller than skyscrapers swallowed coastlines. The sky itself became a weapon. But strangely, the impact wasn't what truly killed the dinosaurs. That was only the beginning. Dust filled the atmosphere. The sun disappeared. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Months became years. Plants stopped growing. Food chains collapsed. The giants that once shook the earth with every step slowly starved. Not because they lost a battle, but because the rules of existence changed. This is what makes extinction so unsettling. It rarely happens through violence alone. It happens because the world quietly becomes incompatible with those living inside it. And that's a pattern far bigger than dinosaurs. Think about it. History isn't full of civilizations destroyed by one enemy. They're destroyed when the environment around them changes faster than they can adapt. Empires collapse. Companies disappear. Languages die. Entire cultures fade into memory, not because they were weak, because yesterday's strengths become tomorrow's weaknesses. The dinosaurs were masters of one version of Earth, then Earth became something else, and suddenly, being enormous was no longer an advantage. It was a death sentence. This changes everything. Because survival has never belonged to the strongest, it belongs to the most adaptable. Here's something that feels almost impossible. Dinosaurs never truly disappeared. You're surrounded by them. Every morning, every afternoon, every evening, look out your window. See that pigeon, that crow, that eagle soaring overhead? They're dinosaurs, not descendants. Actual living dinosaurs. One branch of the dinosaur family evolved feathers, lighter skeletons, and bodies capable of flight. When disaster came, they escaped. Not because they were smarter, not because they were stronger, because evolution had quietly prepared them for a world that didn't exist yet. The creatures we now dismiss as ordinary birds are living proof that extinction isn't always absolute. Sometimes life survives by becoming unrecognizable. And maybe humans aren't as different as we'd like to believe. Our ancestors look nothing like us. Different bodies, different tools, different brains. Entire human species once walked this planet together. Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo erectus. Homo erectus. Now, only one remains. Us. But why? Was it intelligence, luck, cooperation, or simply timing? The uncomfortable truth is that history often rewards coincidence as much as brilliance. The universe doesn't hand out trophies for effort. It simply keeps whatever fits. Everything else disappears. But this is where the story becomes deeply personal. Every species believes its world is normal. Dinosaurs never knew they were living at the end of an era. The Romans didn't know they were witnessing Rome's decline. People in ancient civilizations never realized they were living through history's final chapter. And maybe, neither do we. Our cities feel permanent. Our technology feels unstoppable. Our internet feels eternal. But permanence is one of the greatest illusions evolution ever created. Nothing stays dominant forever. Not species, not nations, not ideas. Imagine explaining smartphones to someone living 500 years ago. Impossible. Now imagine explaining the next 500 years to yourself. Equally impossible. We assume tomorrow will resemble today. Because our brains evolved to expect continuity, not transformation. But nature doesn't care about human expectations. Nature experiments, relentlessly. Sometimes over millions of years. Sometimes in a single afternoon. One volcanic eruption. One pandemic. One technological breakthrough, one artificial intelligence, one asteroid. The future can pivot on a single event, and history has shown that it often does. There's another strange lesson hidden in the dinosaur story. Size can become a trap. When resources vanish, the largest fall first. They need more food, more space, more stability. Smaller creatures hide, adapt. Wait, this pattern appears everywhere. Massive corporations fail while tiny startups survive. Huge empires crumble while isolated communities endure. Gigantic animals disappear while insects continue almost unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Success often creates fragility. The higher something climbs, the harder adaptation becomes. Perhaps the greatest risk isn't weakness. It's becoming too successful to change. Humans have reached an extraordinary point. We've reshaped rivers, changed the atmosphere, walked on the moon, built machines that can think alongside us. For the first time in Earth's history, one species has begun redesigning the planet itself. That sounds like victory. But it also carries an unsettling question. Can intelligence outrun evolution? Because evolution doesn't stop once you invent civilization. It simply changes the battlefield. Now survival depends on information, technology, cooperation, adaptability. The same force that once selected feathers over scales may someday select entirely different kinds of minds. And almost nobody talks about this part. Perhaps evolution's next leap won't be biological at all. It may be cultural, digital, artificial. If that happens, what exactly counts as human? This is why dinosaurs fascinate us. Not because they're giant monsters, not because children love fossils, but because they're mirrors. They remind us that dominance has an expiration date. Every skull in a museum whispers the same sentence. I thought this world belonged to me. That's the tragedy. But also the beauty. Nothing lasts forever, which means every moment becomes infinitely valuable. Every civilization is temporary. Every generation is borrowing time. Every heartbeat is occurring during an unimaginably brief window in Earth's history. If Earth's history were compressed into a single year, dinosaurs would dominate the calendar for months. Humans wouldn't appear until the final minutes before midnight on December 31st, recorded history. Just a few final seconds. Everything we've ever built, every language, every war, every religion, every invention, every love story, every dream, all of it exists inside the smallest blink imaginable. Yet we behave as though we're the destination. Perhaps we're only another chapter. Perhaps something else is already beginning. Quietly, unnoticed. Exactly as mammals once did beneath the feet of giants. Maybe the real question was never, why don't dinosaurs exist? Maybe the real question is, what species is living in our shadow right now? What unnoticed creature? What unexpected intelligence? What silent idea is quietly preparing for a world after us? Because history has a habit of repeating one brutal lesson. The rulers of one age become the fossils of the next, and they never see it coming. So the next time you hear a bird singing outside your window, remember, you're not listening to the survivors of the dinosaurs. You're listening to dinosaurs themselves. Living proof that the future doesn't belong to the strongest. It belongs to whoever is ready for a world that hasn't arrived yet. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the horizon of our imagination, that future has already begun.